Move well, study well, play well, rest well. That is the Turtle School way. It is Dokkan time, guys. And we have Master Roshi finally here on Global Dokkan. And I am here to show you his defense calculations, his kit, what do I suggest on like team, what do I suggest for the unit, my overall thoughts, and I'm hoping to just kind of help you out with how you should be using this unit. We are going to change it up a little bit on how we do some of these how to builds. I want to give you the defense calculations first. I want to kind of then go down the route of the units breakdown, and then we'll go over the roll tips. Though I will say I will have that on the right side of the screen, just kind of looping around in there, so you can take a look at it as I am talking, so you're not completely bored and can just take notes, or you can just move on and, you know, subscribe and like, and I appreciate every single one of you. Now, as I said, we're going to start off with defense calculations. Compliments of Halvard, of course. So Roshi has some interesting calculations, and it's primarily because his team is very wonky. His kit is a little bit wonky, so therefore he is a little wonky. It's Master Roshi. Though I am biased on this unit, I am going to be real with you and say that he is just straight up a floating supportive kind of unit. He is good. He does have some defensive viability. But the problem I have with him, and regardless of what his max output is on his defense, is that he is very finicky and requires a very specific setup of a team to see him at his peak. He can have a really high peak, but then he can have a really low, which can actually really skew the way you view this unit. So as you can see here, his without support or anything in his passive, he has like no defense whatsoever. You have to be running a Turtle School team with at least 2 Turtle School units on the team itself. So that's the first requirement. And then to actually see him at his peak, or at least within range, you need to have at least 1 Peppy Gal ally on the rotation that he is on, or have up to 2 on the same rotation. And then you'll really see some really difference in his defense. As you can see here, defense post super is 1.1 million defense on just the initial super attack with 2 Peppy Gal units. But if you don't have any Peppy Gal units, you're at like 700k defense at most. So there's a huge jump there. That's like a 400k difference in defense, just for having Peppy Gals on the rotation. You know, he sees the girlies and he goes cuckoo for the Cocoa Puff. The Puffu, that is. So he does actually have built-in additionals, which is nice, and it does help his defense out quite a bit. And obviously, you know, Turtle School, you have Tech UI, you have several different amounts of support, including STR Bulma that can also give support. So this is by no means his maximum defense right here of what you're seeing on the screen. This is by no means his maximum defense. 1.7 is not his max. He can go up to 2 mil pretty easily in his best case scenario. 40% support is likely, of course, though. 2 Peppy Gals. Honestly, Peppy Gals is a really rough category. Once again, regardless of my biased nature towards Peppy Gals or Master Roshi, you know, what are your options for Peppy Gals? STR Bulma, AGL Bulba Bunny, Tech Bulma. You know, there's a lot of Bulmas in there. And a lot of it is pretty much dodge or die kind of situations. But yeah, I mean, Peppy Gals isn't the best thing in the world, so this isn't like ideal. You know, maybe you'll be rocking STR Bulma or Bulma Bunny for dodge or die situations. And then you can kind of cut down this a little bit, maybe like 100 or 200k defense on these right here if you only have 1. But yeah, so let's kind of just go over his build now. I'd like to kind of get that out of the way and go over that. You know, if it wanted to show up on the screen. Nope. Yeah, there we go. My bad. So, with Master Roshi, you do have the 200 defense options here. Obviously, he's Kamehameha. He is the original Kamehameha creator, so therefore he's on the team. So he's on the quote-unquote best unit in the game at the time of recordings team, 200% lead Super Saiyan Gohan, second coming Broly unit. The problem I have, and the reason why you'll see on the tips that I don't suggest really any other teams other than his own or Gohan's, is because there's a very limited amount of room for what you can really fit him on. And I just don't feel like he would really fit on Gohan's team. I don't really feel like he would fit on with Kai Goku. Kai Goku is kind of aged in my personal opinion. He will cause you to die more often than none. Five Guys has never really been an accessible leader that people will want to rock. I would say Piccolo is a good leader, but Piccolo doesn't have too many options when it comes down to Turtle School or Peppy Gal units. I mean, you do have Bulma and a couple Turtle School. You have couple Turtle Schools. It's all UI Gokus, of course. I would say Piccolo is a decent option. Piccolo's a decent option, but you have to remember that Roshi primarily is a floating support unit solely for Turtle Hermit, for Kamehameha, Turtle School, specifically Turtle School and Peppy Gal support. He does have an active, though, that will change your mind on that potentially. But honestly, at the time of writing, his best leader is himself or Gohan. Those are pretty much his best leaders. He is a Peppy Gal leader, yes, for 200% straight up. He is also Turtle School or Dragon Ball Saga 170, and then a 200% support to those that are on Bond of Master and Disciple or Kamehameha categories. The Peppy Gal category is excluded because Peppy Gals just straight up are 200%. He does raise attack and defense on 12 key, but he does have unit supers. Those unit supers can happen as long as you have a Goku Youth, Krillin Youth, or a Bulma attacking in the same turn, in which they do the same thing. They boost attack by 30%, defense by 50%, and gives you a 70% chance to stun. So that utility is pretty nice, actually. He does have an entrance animation, which gives him 30% damage reduction for 7 turns from the character's entry turn. So he's basically on a time limit defensively. I will say that. Roshi is straight up on a time limit that once you run out of this 30% damage reduction, his defense is no longer viable because you'll be down to a 20%. So we'll go over that as we go through the rest of his kit, but it's attack and defense 150, another attack and defense 150, and launches a super attack when performing a super attack. So yes, he additionals for free. Key plus 3 and reduces damage by 20% if there is another 2 or more Turtle School category allies on the team. So he does have 20% damage reduction, but in my book, in my personal log of booking of a unit, 20% damage reduction is literally nothing. That's tax. It's not even a good amount of tax. It's hardly, you're still paying the full price, basically. But, you know, you pile it up here with his intro with 30%, and he's got 50% damage reduction for 7 turns. To put in layman's terms, if you keep him on rotation, that's the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and then 7th turn. So he would have 4 appearances in that case where he'll have 50% damage reduction. However, if you're floating him like he's kind of designed to be floated, you're only going to have him for the 1st, the 5th, and then like the 8th turn, and that's when he loses damage reduction on his 3rd appearance at that given point. So, he is 100% on a time limit as far as his defense viability goes. He does get an additional attack and defense plus 82% per Peppy Gal's category ally attacking in the same turn. So this is why his defense is so much different based on if you have 1 or 2 Peppy Gals attacking in the same turn. It doesn't have to be 2 specifically like Halvard's calculation showed. It is straight up 82% per. So you can have just LR Bulma on rotation and he'll have an extra 82% attack and defense. He does get another additional attack plus 82% and 50% chance of performing crit when there's an ally whose name includes Bulma attacking in the same turn. Remember what I say in every single freaking video that I make on how to builds. If a unit has built-in crit for 50% chance or more, they don't need crit. and this goes specifically for Roshi, unfortunately, I will say that you can go ahead and give him crit if you so choose. That's entirely up to you. If you are not a dodge advocate, you do not need to give him dodge. That is perfectly fine. You can give him some extra crit to do some damage while he is on rotation. But the way that he's designed is that he's not designed to do damage. He can do damage, but it's still not like a crazy amount. Maybe when he came out like 4 or 5 months ago on JP, you know, he might have had some decent damage, but we're really escalating as far as damage goes from bosses and damage from units. He does do a good amount of damage. I will say that in my builds, I'm only suggesting like dodge or additional. I would 100% say you can replace dodge and put in the crit instead. That is something I didn't really think about because I don't feel like that's what Roshi's purpose is. Roshi is meant to teach and support. He's meant to support. That's what he's meant to do. And I typically try to use a unit for what they're made to do, and that's the support. You know, on a typical Master Roshi team, what I'm thinking of is I'm going to run double Roshi. Both Roshis are going to be floated. I'm going to be running Tech UI, AGL UI, so that's already one rotation right there. I'm going to run LR Bulma, and I'm going to run AGL Bunny Bulma, which that's, once again, another rotation. So you already got both of the rotations filled out, and that really ultimately just puts Roshi into the floating position. And then once he comes onto rotation during the final bits of the fights, you use his active skill, which we'll go over right down here. Also, he gives Turtle School or Peppy Gal category allies key +2 attack and defense +50%. But he recovers half your health, and for 1 turn, all allies key +3 attack and defense +30%. And this can be activated when HP is 70% or less, starting from the 3rd turn or starting from the 5th turn. So basically, at about the end of the fight, the end of most fights in the game, you'll have access to his active skill, which will be a nice initial boost for him to try and to defeat the enemy, for him and the allies. And trust me when I say it, this doesn't sound like a lot, but the way it is added to the units on their damage and defense, it's huge. It's huge, man. It adds quite a bit, especially if you're mixing Tech UI with his domain. It's pretty crazy. The one big weakness I will say of this unit is straight up his links. The links are not amazing. Like Supreme Warrior? Really? Like Supreme Warrior? Like, who are you linking with, bro? Like, who are you linking with in here? Yourself? Like, there's just not very many instances where you're going to be, like, getting all of these links off, unfortunately. You probably will get Turtle School off every now and again. Infighter will be up. Kamehameha will be up. Incredible Adventure, perhaps. But World Champion's almost never going to be. You'll always have Fierce Battle. Most of these links aren't even going to be activated, in all honesty. And then he is on a few different categories. And typically when I suggest in my roll tips, I suggest 200%. I don't typically suggest 170s. Not that he doesn't have 170 options. He has several 170 options. He has tons of 170 options. But the way that he is designed, he's not really designed to be rocking on many other teams other than his own, or straight up a Turtle School mixed with Earthbred Fighters, Peppy Gals. Like, that's primarily what his whole purpose is. But yeah. Anyways, so once again, we'll just kind of go over it real quick over here on the builds. So on this build side here, you'll see we got the 55% up. The 55%, once again, I will say that you can swap out the dodge and just put in crit. That's perfectly fine. But otherwise, I would suggest additional for extra defense viability and extra damage. Once again, though, at the end of the day, he is a supportive unit. He is a supportive unit, so I would say that you should just be giving him a defense orb, and then just going with additional or dodge. Okay, so moving on with the builds from the 55%, I would once again suggest you kind of go for more of an additional or dodge approach, or you can alternatively go for a additional and crit choice. I do suggest the crit if you're not a dodge advocate. Remember that if you chose to go with dodge as the remaining amount, a 6% is not very high. It's not. But I do understand the fact that Roshi is 100% a support unit, so I get it. For those that do not wish to do that, and honestly, I'm probably going to go for this range here myself, potentially. It's hard to say right now at the time of writing. But yeah, you can definitely go with that. But I would 100% say that additional is the safer bet to be rocking Roshi with over the other two. Additional will give you more defense. Additional will give you more damage. And you have more a likelihooded chance of getting an additional off than you do to actually get a dodge off. So just always remember that. And then, of course, we'll go moving on to the roll tips, where I am not proud of this one because I wish Roshi had more options. But at the end of the day, he is a supportive type unit. His best 200% lead is either going to be straight up on Kamehameha lead, or just his own straight up leader skill, so he can take advantage of having both Turtle School units and Epical units. Now you'll notice the partners are a little wonky here, and they also don't actually give him too many links going off. The whole purpose of this set of partners here is that these are basically what you're looking at for his best partners, because Bulma's best partners, because that's part of his kit, is to be running Bulmas next to him. When these Bulmas run out of meta worthiness, so does he, basically. Grandpa Gohan, which is a brand new World Tournament unit here on Global and JP, is also a very fascinatingly good free-to-play LR, and I do think he deserves to be on the team with his master, of course. And then Tech UI, of course, because of his domain primarily is the reason. I would also suggest AGL UI Goku as well, but he is primarily here to just be like, yes, AGL and Tech UI. And then, of course, there's Krillin. Krillin is actually a supportive unit, and this Krillin is actually probably one of his best partners because he is a support unit as well at the same time. And he's also probably the better link partner out of all of them. Can we go? Let's go take a look at that real quick. Hold on. Because I'm pretty sure, yeah, like Krillin is activating the majority of his links. Yeah, Krillin is activating 5 links. Turtle School, Infighter, Kamehameha, Incredible Adventure, and Fierce Battle are all going off with Krillin there in the mix. Not to mention that Krillin does support. Doesn't Krillin support? Or is Krillin's support not... Hold on. Okay, never mind. His support is only for World Tournament, unfortunately. But either way, Krillin is still a very solid... he's still a very solid link partner and defensive-esque unit. Krillin is... He's aged a little bit. I don't think he's going to be tanking no 3 million supers, but he's still going to be able to tank decently well. Is he in World Tournament? No, he's not in World Tournament. That's unfortunate. The day that we get a Super Easy A for this kid Goku here, this will turn into his best link partner at that point, of course. Anytime we get a new kid Goku, even this one right here, even this Goku is a very excellent partner as a slot 1 unit, because Roshi's not a slot 1. Roshi is a slot 2 or a floating unit. That is his primary source and where he's supposed to be out on a team. So those would be my suggestions for partners. Basically Earthbred fighter team or his own. So, but I think that's going to be it for the video, guys. I don't really have any other pointers left for the Turtle Hermit himself. So let me know if you guys actually decided to summon for him, and what teams you're going to try and run with him. Anyways, thank you for watching. Have a good day and a good night.